program. Thank you for joining us. We are coming to you from the Kampala Serena Conference Center, Nile Room. And tonight we'll be talking about refugees. Our focus is the existing gaps in education. This particular episode of the show is sponsored by Windle International Uganda. It's done in collaboration with them. And I'll very quickly introduce my guests for tonight. Right next to me is the Programs Manager Education for Windle International, Simon Daale. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Right, and next to him is Mr. Emmanuel Loponi, who is a vocational school beneficiary. Welcome, Emmanuel.
Thank you.
And finally, at the very end, we have Renee Ndoi, who is also a scholarship beneficiary.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for joining us. Let's say it as it is. Now, Uganda has been praised over and over again for its open arms to refugees. Every 20th of June, which was Thursday this past week, the world celebrates the strength, courage, and resilience of millions of refugees. The theme this year was Step with Refugees. Tonight, we speak to some refugees and they tell us what it is like starting afresh in a whole new environment and how we can step with them. I'll turn very quickly to you, Renee. You'll start us off. Tell me about how you came to come to Uganda. When did you come to Uganda?
Well, I came to Uganda in 2004. I was with my father and my young sister. That was following civil conflict in DRC, where I come from, the eastern part of the country.
Okay.
By then I was a 9-year-old, and there were a lot of things happening by that time. We could not stand them as a family, just like other families. People were getting arrested, our parents, our fathers, and we didn't have answers. And for them, they could not even answer to us what was happening, only to find a solution in leaving the country. On 4th of December, that's when we boarded a truck of food with my dad and my young sister. He could not carry the rest of the family members after all what had happened. So that's how we crossed to Uganda.
Who did you leave there?
I left my mother, my other 4 siblings, and an auntie.
How did your parents decide who was coming and who was staying?
Well, by that time, there was a campaign to arrest male. That was my father. He had been arrested several times, and they had a reasoning that maybe these are the people who are engaging in the conflicts, but most of them it could be used for other reasons. So my dad had to leave, but of course he used that opportunity to live with some of us because he knew that without him in that area, the family could not go on. So the family had to live with him first.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the age of 9, do you remember anything about the journey?
Yeah, I do. You can imagine, I can't forget moving in a truck of food. Who would forget that?
Because it was a truck of food?
Yeah, yes,
oh,
yes.
Okay.
But even before then, I remember my dad telling us how we should disguise our identities. So that trauma has moved with me up to now.
Okay. Emmanuel, do you want to tell us about your journey?
My journey, I started, we came here in 2011. The problem that made us to come here, it was because of internal conflicts that was taking place around the country. So the internal conflicts made my parents to be my father was arrested and was taken away to prison. So we were left, as we were 2 brothers. We were left at home. Situation was very hard for us. So we had to do what we had to do is to move at night. We were moving, looking for where we can find good place. So there was a guy who got us in the street at night. So he talked to us that, where are you going? We said our parents are not there, they were arrested. So what we do, we just ran away. They weren't even to arrest us. So we are just running, we don't know where we are going. So that person had to get us and bring us to Moyo district. So that is where he boarded for us a bus to come up to Kirandongo.
Okay.
That is where we are located.
Okay. Well, how did you travel from within South Sudan to get to Moyo?
We were footing.
You walked the
We
whole...
were just footing. Even rain was raining on us. We were not having sleeping. We had sleepless night. We could just move like that. No food, no water, no bathing. So that is how we get to Uganda.
It was just you and your brother?
Yeah, we came with my brother.
I'll turn to you now, Simon. You hear many of these stories by nature of your job. Do you want to share some of the other stories that you've had to help us understand the plight of the refugee in Uganda?
Thank you, Josephine. Refugees, as they have said, they don't have a formula for leaving their home countries. These things just land on them abruptly and then they have to move. We have several incidences that we have seen. There are children who have come here as children alone. As conflict erupts, there are those we call unaccompanied minors. This you find a child of 5 years, a child of 10 is alone. And when you ask, doesn't know anything, just left home and started, when the father goes, the mother goes, the others go, everyone separates. So these people are with us. We have also children who have come here and they find themselves entangled. They were already entangled in conflict. We have these ones who are disabled. During the conflict, we have those ones whom we have, and we have taught them in schools of special needs schools. They don't have hands, some don't have legs, some are on wheelchairs. You know, it is something which is so touching that you look at helpless people. And when I look at this, like here, it's just an example of what is behind.
Well, because Emmanuel, you were about 9 or 10 years old when you came, so you were really an unaccompanied minor?
Yes.
Okay. So what happens when somebody his age comes in?
So when these children come in, of course they are received by the government, for which we thank the government of Uganda for that open-handedness. Then they welcome them, they register them, and then we get to know the categories that we are dealing with. I've just said there are those with special needs, those who have been affected in one way, and you find they are either mentally disturbed or handicapped or no more but helpless. So we get those different categories. So for example, when it comes to a settlement where they are received, then you find a group, these are unaccompanied. These are children, maybe unaccompanied, and then they have special needs. Maybe one doesn't have a hand at all. So in such a case, you have to, first of all, they are given, we have different partners at settlement who work on protection issues for children especially. So a child will go into the protection, first of all, to be given, if, for example, one doesn't have a leg and needs some clutches, they will be given clutches, but again, they need to get education. So that's when they come to us.
That's when they come to you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a lot of information that's been going on in recent times about donors cutting funding to certain organizations within the country, and I'm wondering if your operations are in any way affected by the same.
Well, yeah, because our operations, these people need support. And the moment we don't have enough funds, like in education needs a lot of funding because it is not all about children in school. We need teachers, we need scholastics, we need the structures themselves. So if we don't have funding, that's when you'll find we have over 2,000 children in a school, but we have less classrooms. So the effect, if we don't have the funding, it means children will come to school, but they will study under trees. Children will come to school,
and
but they don't have, there are no teachers. You have one teacher is handling 200. You have children in the school, but they don't have books. By the nature, the way they left home, they don't have anything.
Okay.
Yeah, so it affects us.
Brene, how did you get to become this accomplished person? What do you do?
Right now, I'm a graduate from Makerere University in Biomedical Lab Technology.
Okay.
Yeah, right now I'm doing my graduate internship with International AIDS Vaccine Initiative under the Uganda Virus Research Institute.
How did you come to go to school when you came to Uganda? Because that tells me you've gone through, you know, the whole school process.
Yeah. I was privileged, I should say. There are others of my kind that have not achieved this. Throughout my journey as a young person, I knew I had 5 other people who were following me. I needed to set an example for them and a sustainable one. And that I thought I could do through education. You had to work yourself out so that you get bursaries, scholarships in primary schools and secondary schools. That's how I studied, not until I met Window International in 2015. And I was privileged with the scholarship, the Duffy Scholarship, and that's how I attained university education. Beginning, it was very hard, I must confess, because you have these inherent problems with the refugees. You don't know the language, you can't speak the language, you can't mingle well with other peers. So it took me a time. My parents were trying their hardest to educate us, but it was very hard.
What did you study?
I did welding and metal fabrication.
And that's what you're doing now?
Yeah.
Okay, how is it going?
It's going on well.
You like it?
I like it.
What are you making?
Can make these doors, windows, and other furnitures.
Are you selling them?
I sell them.
So about how much do your products go for?
Anyway, it depends on the work scheme. When people brings for me work too much, that's when I get money also. But the money that I'm getting at this time, I had my younger sister, which is in Senior 3. I'm even giving out the money for paying her in school. So I was trying my best to make her at least finish Senior 4. Then if I can have money, if I get some money, I take her for a course, a nursing course.
What is it like, Simon, for education for the refugees when they come in?
At Window International Uganda, we look at education right from early childhood. We have early childhood, we have primary, we have secondary, we have university where we manage scholarships, and then we have the vocational part. So as we receive the refugees, we just accommodate them within our educational structures. But I just wanted to add one point, that the model that he talks about is an initiative that Window came up with, because children are going through school. When they complete school, for example, somebody completes Senior 4 or Senior 6, he comes up with a certificate, A-level or O-level in Uganda may not give you a job. But the model of vocationalizing secondary education is what comes out with this, that a child comes out with 2 certificates. You have the O-level certificate, but you have also a professional skills certificate that is able to put you on market as an employee, but you can also become an employer. He does welding, but he also employs now others. He trains and employs.
Tell me a little bit about Window International.
Sorry?
Tell me a little bit about Window International.
Window International Uganda is an NGO registered in Uganda. We started our work in Uganda in 1996, but it's part of the Window International family with the headquarters in UK. So we do education management, and in the education management we have the software part, which we look at the skills development, and then the hardware part, where we look at school infrastructure. We construct schools, we equip them, we equip vocational centers, technology centers. That's the hardware part of it.
How do you come to work with refugees then?
We come to work with refugees is a focus of the institution itself.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how we came to work with it. Initially, the founder of Window, who was Dr. Window in UK, his focus was on developing the young generation, especially focusing on refugee education. And that's why we fall, and our work focuses specifically on education, nothing else.
All right. Well, we just want to engage the audience a bit and find out what they're thinking about the conversation we're having.
Thank you so much. My name is Mwajuma Mongane. I'm from DRC Congo. They have talked about education according to children, but if we see around the country, many children are suffering. Almost of those one who are just coming from their countries, they found the challenge of language. They may come when they was in like senior one. When they reach Uganda, they can put them in P6, P5, and that one is a big challenge for refugees.
It is true, Uganda is an English-speaking country, but again, we don't limit on who comes to Uganda. So when they come to Uganda, we have to see, although they come from DRC, there is a small element of English, but we have to put them in classes where we shall develop them. We have a model where we bring in, especially at primary level, we bring in teaching assistants. Now these teaching assistants understand, we choose, if they are from Congo, we choose somebody who understands the other language, but also understands English. And that's how we have been able to bring them up. He speaks good English.
Would you allow me to first react on what she had said,
Yes.
Mwajuma? Well, about the education strategy, which has issues such as improving access, then retention and other things, I believe she mentioned something important about access. Many of us who come here, leave alone the children, even the others, they come here and they have very disconnected identities. He doesn't have all the papers. So part of the problem to access is that the current systems may not allow that person. We have problems with evaluating how they have qualified from their former countries, and that is a big problem. Then, plus what he said about teacher training, a teacher teaching refugees, it's a different situation altogether. So they require a lot. And refugees are really hardworking people. I know that the responsibility on my shoulder is a huge one, not just my family, but my country itself. So we look for all these skills.
Do you have some refugees teaching the refugees? I don't know if that would help to make it easier when it comes to the language barrier.
We have refugees who are teachers, but of course it cannot solve it because we can't have enough of the refugees. But I must also say that our countries, the way we live, the African countries, you'll find that if the boundary is here, the people the other side of the country and this side of the country, they almost use a similar language. They understand the languages. So that has also helped us to get people who can understand the other language, Ugandans, and qualified teachers who go to these, who teach these schools.
So my concern on the education of refugees, there are some refugees who come from their country with their qualifications, like maybe in medicine and other fields of study, and they have professionals in different skills. But when they reach in this country, of course, sometimes they're not given opportunities to exercise their professional because of different education system. But then, like a partner dealing with education of refugees, how best can they address that if it means equating their results? Not because some people come when they're already above age and they're not willing to go back to school. Okay. That's why I find most youth, they're idle in the settlements, and because they're unemployed and they have nothing to do, and yet they're employed, they are in antisocial behaviors like drug abuse, prostitution, which is an effect and it is long-lasting.
Do you want to take that?
Yeah, thank you so much for the concern. I can't competently, of course, answer the question. That's a national issue. I'm not competent enough to give why.
What organizations like yours doing?
But as an organization, we work within the provisions of the law. And if, for example, the government provides that such papers can be equated, for example, then we facilitate the equating of those papers so that they are able to find an equivalent in Uganda and whether that can do what that paper is supposed to do. For us, that is our role, and that's how we facilitate the refugees.
So if somebody qualified as an engineer before they left DRC or South Sudan or Rwanda and they came here, you get their papers and take and see if this...
The relevant authorities.
Okay.
Yeah, we present these papers to the relevant authorities and see what courses they did, the content, what they did, if this can be equated, and what does it translate in the Ugandan context. So for us, we just facilitate that process.
Have you had times when it's actually been equated?
We have had.
And what happens when it's not?
If it's not, it is not equated.
So they have to go back to school?
That means they have to go back to achieve a level that is desired.
All right.
Josephine, to add on that, the education sector has done its part. When you go to various public universities and you have your papers, they receive you well, and then they equate them. Now, my problem is with the costing when it comes to professions association, professions bodies. In the case of mine, it is allied health. So she asked about that too. You find that when you go to these bodies, there are huge costs that are given to such processing of such documents, and a lot of demands. They do not bear the fact that this person might not have moved with all her papers, or
they got lost in the conflict,
or even is not capable to raise such amounts. You find that they take you into a category of an international status. You're an international, you're a foreigner. But if the necessary was done, we have people who have contributed to their host communities very positively. Mentioned people like Albert Einstein, an inspiration of the same scholarship program. Karl Marx, there are many. Jesus, I should say, he was a refugee too. So we really have to do these things right.
Okay. And I wanted to ask Emmanuel and Renee, how can Uganda step with you further? What more can we do?
Okay. First and foremost, I would thank the Ugandan government for her exceptional generosity that he has shown. Other countries are picking a leaf, say Ethiopia, which has just opened access and right to work of refugees. But we have received these refugees, or you have received us, and the violences in different areas where we came from is not showing to end soon or any sooner. So we must be thought about as people who are going to contribute to Uganda's going on. So my appeal, or my general appeal, is that the humanitarian system, especially the one dealing with refugees, requires strong partnerships, strong collaborations, and an inclusive strategy, such that what is given to us has a multiplier effect to the host community or even the countries we came from. That's what I should say.
Emmanuel, how can we step with you?
Since I'm in Uganda, I wanted the facilities that are provided to all the refugees and the nationals should just be equal, because whether you are from other countries, you are in this country, what we do is all the same thing. We must be providing the same qualities. Like maybe, for instance, like me as a welder, I'm doing this work in Uganda here. I'm not making the things that I produce for other countries, but is to develop even the country. So if the country could be lenient to us and provide us with those working tools that we can teach the other the generation. Provision of these the working tools. Those working tools it will help so much to teach these people who are not scale up, so they can become also productive. They can produce things that will make the country to revolve. So we are treated as one people.
Right. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. And as we close, Simon, there's the 1% conference taking place in Berlin now, and we know that the people that get access to higher education, of all of the number that it is, only 1% of these are refugees. What more can we do?
Yeah, we have a lot actually to do. I would appeal actually to the international community to be supportive of this, because as they said, 1% is accessing higher education. It is true, because we produce a lot qualified from A level who are able to access this education, but we are not able because of the limited funding options that we get. We could diversify the scholarship programs. We could find a way, would appeal maybe the different options that can be given so that the refugees are able to go for this higher education. But I also wanted to mention the question on the step. How can we step with the refugees? I would appeal also to the government that much as we support the refugees, we have to abide by the legal framework. There are certain things, for example, now we equate results, but UNEB would have a limited time when we are supposed to finish this program. But the equating program takes longer than the regular students who have just finished, because here you just get and put. But as you go on, you find we are caught up by time. So there would be a special consideration in the case of refugees. And also maybe they would consider expanding all our schools, the government, to make them secondary schools, to be vocational, to integrate the vocational part in it. My appeal is to the international community, where as a whole, to recognize that the work that is being done to support refugee education. An example, just recently, the University of York recognized our director at the international level for the work that is being done to promote refugee education. And I would like this to go out to our development partners also, come up and support our cause to bring up refugees, to make them comfortable, to uplift them and make them part of us, because what they are doing also develops our countries.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of our show for tonight.